together. This is the last word my grandfather said as he lay dying. Also what brings me here today. I grew up in an evangelical church, a tight-knit, though somewhat large community that gathered together 3 times a week. Whenever church was in session, my family of 6 was there. Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening, and any other days there were special events. Church was my second home. I loved going to a place where I felt like I belonged, and I loved the Jesus I learned about there. From birth, church shaped my entire life. As I entered adulthood, I thought I would be so fulfilled if I just stuck to the path laid before me. No one prepared me, though, for the possibility of life not unfolding in the ways that it should. Nor did they make space for the hard questions I'd inevitably ask about those expectations, as well as about life, human nature, and death. So when I graduated college, uncertain of what to do with myself, I moved and created a life in a new town several hours away. I became deeply involved in a church, trying to build a new family in the non-nuclear sense, one I could contribute to and depend on, one that would accept, welcome, and even engage my critical mind alongside my passionate devotion. What I experienced, though, was the most profound loneliness I had ever known. I generally felt invisible, despite all the ways I was involved in giving to this community. I thought often of those in the church and beyond who, like me, felt invisible, taken for granted. I remembered Matthew 25, 35 to 36, which says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." I met people outside the church who seemed more attuned to and deeply concerned about these tangible physical and psychological needs than nearly every Christian I had known, save my grandfather. Eventually, I realized that I no longer saw God in the church. It wasn't that God had left or that church had changed, but that I recognized God differently. And so I left. I began exploring other denominations and eventually other religious traditions altogether. And while I felt enriched by this journey, I no longer felt at home in any religious community. And I realized that could very well always remain the case. Still, though, I longed for real community, a community striving to love better, a community attuned to the needs of others, a community committed to listening to, learning from, and taking care of others as an integral part of our spiritual practice. And as my understandings of inequity and systematized injustice developed, I longed for a community of people committed to pursuing equity and justice for all, no matter the personal implications. For this was the Jesus I saw in the Gospels, and this is the community I long for and that I dream of for my daughters, one bound by the singular commitment to do this work together. That was my grandfather's lifelong injunction and parting gift, the simple reminder that all living beings are interdependent. We need each other, he would say, and that is why we're here today. Until earlier this year, I had no intention of joining another church, and I assumed that my desires for community would have to be fulfilled by sporadic socializing with like-minded friends. So when, out of curiosity, I listened to one of Federated's services online, I was caught off guard. From every line of each hymn to Pastor Eric's sermon, I immediately felt at home. So much so that I listened to the service a second time, sobbing most of the way through. Despite my fear that this church would be more of the same I had previously known, I felt excited about the prospect of re-envisioning what it might mean to be the church. So I got involved. In addition to listening to services online, I met with Pastor Eric and joined the Lenten book study on faith and racial injustice. Those conversations yielded glimpses of the love revealed through community that I longed for. So it is with excitement for the vision of love, community, and servitude that this church is proclaiming, alongside the generosity of all of you, many of whom fed my family without knowing us when we experienced postpartum challenges this spring, that my husband, Clint, and I are bringing ourselves and our daughters to join this church. Thank you for being a church that restores our hope. In Jesus' followers.